Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. Julie Keeps Quiet focuses on a star player, Julie, at an elite youth tennis academy. Julie's life revolves around the game she loves, trains hard, pausing only for class or physical therapy before returning to the gym. When her coach, Jérémy, is suddenly suspended following a suicide of one of her female protégées, all the players at the academy are encouraged to speak up. Just an incredibly well-done film. Julie Keeps Quiet. We're joined today by the director and co-writer, Leonardo van Dijl. Leonardo, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for giving some time to talk about Julie.
I cannot tell you how impressive this film is and how I'm impressed with the filmmaking in it. What was it with you and your co-writer, by the way, Ruth Beckart, who is also in the film? How did this story and this film come about?
Well, there is this quote of Toni Morrison where she says, like, if you want to read a book, but it hasn't been written yet, go out and write it. And I guess for me and Ruth, this movie came from a certain desire to experience something in a story that for us felt still untold. We are so often, focusing on disclosure and coming out and the responsibility of speaking up against injustice. But what Julie is about is that before a silence is broken, there is always silence in that way. It's kind of a journey in that way to sit in with that silence, that reflection on what is happening or something, and I guess create a language around it. And in that way, felt that was a story that was not told in that way. The silence, how this shame, how this trauma, how this all this kind of heavy emotions sit in with somebody in that way. And what can we do in guiding her through that journey where she starts to accept that silence? And in doing that, we wanted to just bring kindness into a narrative that at the moment we started writing it, used a language that was extremely loud, extremely toxic. I guess bring a narrative to the screen that can help perhaps victims or survivors of any kind of abuse come out and open up to the world in a safe way.
And one of the ways in which I believe you bring us in to Julie's story and that is so effective is we linger on her in the regular routines that she is involved in, whether it's playing tennis, hanging out with her friends. And there's a silence in the film that allows us to be almost meditative in our experience of watching her go through what it is that she's going through. So I just think it's not only the story, but it's the storytelling and the fact that you, as you were just describing, this silence allows us to become increasingly more invested in Julie. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yes, and I also, for me in that way, I did not want that silence of Julie necessarily be only hers. I also wanted to create an opportunity where you as the audience can watch the movie and perhaps sit in with your own silence, because silence is part of life. If I have learned one thing during this process is that we all struggle at some point in life with silence, and it's rare to have the opportunity to really sit in with it and I guess analyze it. The thing about silence as let's say almost like a dramaturgical force is that silence can be violent. It can be slowly eroding oneself.
Mm-hmm.
Yet at the same time, sometimes speaking out can also be very harmful. What do you do when you are faced with this dilemma in that way? And I think that's good about Julie in that way is that she ultimately, is reflecting that question onto the audience and is daring to ask us to be or not to be, to speak or not to speak. And you as the audience have the opportunity, I guess, to decide for yourself, if you were in that situation of Julie, what would you do? And there is no easy answer to it or something. because
Right.
again, like it is that universal. It's the core of Julie is something that is a story about what it means to be human.
Yeah.
um, and that's not about like an age group or gender or a sexuality or something. Like it's just like it's part of being human. And when you go back to, for example, the ancient Greek tragedies, or you go to Shakespeare, often like it is about that. It is, every story is about like lies and secrets that somehow keep on oppressing somebody, and at the same time sometimes also protect them.
Another part of the story is that Julie stands at the precipice for the fulfillment of her dreams moving forward. She's wanted to be a tennis player. She is a tennis player. She's been trying her best to move to the next step in her career, in her journey as a tennis player. She's at that point in life where she's in school, all of the things that go along with socialization and all of the things that are bringing this moment into focus for her. And the possibilities are almost beyond comprehension in terms of how this could go. There's that part of it too. It creates this another level of tension in the telling of the story. And I want to talk for a few minutes at least about Julie Tessa van den Broek, in her facial expressions, in her body language, and all the things that bring us into a more and more clear focus of what she's probably thinking about, or at least contemplating, is so beautifully done. She is remarkable in that in this role as Julie. How did she come into this?
Well, for me, it was always clear that I wanted to work with real athletes, with real tennis players. With this kind of stories, for example, about abuse, often, the victim is being questioned
Yeah,
in that, like, what is true, what's not true. So I was like, I need to work with somebody who knows how to hit a ball. If they are starting her physical performances,
yes,
then like all the rest they will also put into question. So I need to work in that way with a real athlete, because only in that way the story can be conveying, and we start questioning the right, what the story really is about. And that's great, because in that way, like, I Tessa came along, and obviously she was an amazing actress, she just didn't know it. And I knew in that way also, like, it wouldn't be that hard to collaborate with her, because I have experience with working with non-professional actors, and it's just like, if you see they can do it, they can do it. It is just about preparing them for the whole experience. And that's where I invested a lot of time in it, that way, like making sure that she felt comfortable with this environment of making a movie in that way, a set. And because it's quite an intervention, like in this life of a 15-year-old girl, that is, her life is about going to school, about tennis, like much alike to Julie, yet going into movies in that way, what I'm saying, like, it's not like the comfort zone. I spoke a lot with the parents, to her coach, making sure that her whole community became part of this process, so she would never feel, I guess, alone. And also in that way, I don't know, like, that the two communities of making a movie and that tennis world or something, like, kind of blending in, which also is good now, because in the post, Julie experience, she has that community to share that experience with, and to celebrate also the success and the amount of praises that she gets for her performance.
yeah,
In that way, it was important for me, like, I did a lot of research about safeguarding young athletes, and I could use those tools in how I, as a director, worked with the actors, which was fantastic. But yeah, Tessa is that kind of girl, and that's what I liked about her, is she ain't Julie. She is most likely kind of the opposite, even, because she's not afraid of speaking up. She is very, like, in that way, like, confident, but in a very good way. She's very smart, very out there. But then again, when you think about Julie, and that's also how I guess, like, I always like aspired that energy. I never really had like a kind of girl in mind because there is not one type of Julie. You know, what happens to Julie can happen to anybody, basically, even like to boys. You see what I'm saying? Like there
Yeah.
is not a singular idea of what it is to be a victim. So in that way, like I just felt like I will walk in, there will be a girl walking in, and I will know it, and it was Tessa. And that was because I guess like also she likes the acting, but she's not too much in going method in that way. And
Right.
and
Right.
and I wanted that, you know, like also like I did not want in the aftermath that Julie's silence would hound Tessa in that way. I wanted to always be clear there is a separation between who Tessa is and who Julie is. And with Tessa, you could do that. And one of the examples is what I loved about like when we went to Cannes and had a premiere afterwards, there was a journalist asking her like, "How was it to see yourself on the big screen?" And she said like, "Well, it was the first 10 minutes was kind of awkward, but then I just saw a character. I was watching Julie, and it's nice to in that way like that's her approach to the whole experience. That she was just like I guess like enjoying the fact that you had the opportunity to be part of a movie, but also more thinking about Julie in that way as yeah, not like another state of yourself, but just as a story. And how we as the film crew in that way, like always like we tried to serve to Julie's silence in that way
Yeah.
as a community. And that was really cool about Tessa. That she had, I don't know, like that kind of like she's such a good girl and she's such a caring girl to her friends and all of that. Like I couldn't honestly find anybody better to embody Julie. And again, like she's being praised all over the world for it because what she does on the screen is she does things on the screen that I personally have never seen before. And I cannot really explain what it is. And I can also not take, credits for that. But for me, it was a pure joy also to make this movie and to work with such an amazing talent as Tessa. And she influenced the movie to that extent that I think because of her, the movie even became more silent. Where on page there was much more script, but Tessa in that way, like in how she performs and how she communicates with that camera, sometimes she didn't need much to convey to explain what was going on. And that's, I mean, that's magical in that way that, because of collaborating, sometimes the movie becomes more, I guess, the movie that it should be and less what the director had in mind or something.
Hmm. Well, I agree with everything you said. It is a spectacular performance without any affectation at all. And that's why, again, the word I would use to describe this entire film, and from the writing to the look of it, to the silence, to all of it, is this level of commitment. I felt like this film really committed to telling this story in this way. It felt like nothing got in the way in that regard because we are left with these questions. The power dynamic of her coach, the conversation that she has with him, watching that play out, watching her try to process what she's hearing from him and from others and people asking her what's wrong, and it's just a pure piece of cinema storytelling in a way that so impressive and so well done. I'm so happy for you as an artist and as a director, Leonardo van Dijl, to be able to count this among your work because it's really something special. I could go on, but I just
Oh, it's so nice. And every time I guess like again like sometimes what I said like I made this movie because I had the desire to see it myself, but it's so nice to hear that it also offers I guess a beautiful experience to somebody else. I know this is not like the movie that is for everyone, but I know that it is for some people something that's extremely like I guess like immersive and almost transforming. And like that's also like part of being the artist. Sometimes it's not about like I don't know doing it for all, but knowing that there is a part in that community that is needing this to, I guess, grow and move further or something. And yeah, so I'm very happy in that way. Like, like if this kind of like conversations 5 years ago, for me, that was, I guess, like the whole point of starting the journey. So thank you so much for these kinds of words.
Oh, my pleasure, my honor to be able to talk to you about it. We are not going to have as much time as I want to talk about the production team that you gathered around you, including Naomi Osaka, who obviously understands the challenges of competitive tennis and the pressure that goes along with it, and her coming out the way she did, bravely coming out and talking about it, also gives this kind of another layer of, if you will, knowing that she was a part of this in some way, which again speaks to a bigger picture, a greater understanding of all of this.
That's also the world, or something, that somebody as Naomi Osaka has Julie her back. It's just such a powerful and beautiful message to everyone in this world who is struggling with similar issues. And it, at this moment, perhaps is in a very obscure and lonely world.
Yeah,
Like, Naomi Osaka is there,
yeah,
and she says your silence matters, and that you should take the time, I guess, to sit in with it and only break it when you feel comfortable
yeah,
in coming out.
absolutely. Well, Leonardo van Dijl, thank you so much for your works. Thank you so much for spending some time with us to talk about Julie Keeps Quiet. I urge anyone and everyone who cares about great cinema, storytelling, and all of the things that go along with being an experience, a cinematic experience, please check out Julie Keeps Quiet. Thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.